Well, it's official. The St. Louis Blues are headed to the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Still riding the high from last night. Still feeling really excited about this Blues team. It's been an amazing run to cap off an incredible season for the St. Louis Blues. And so in round one, here in the Stanley Cup playoffs, they will face the Winnipeg Jets, the Central Division champions and winners of the President's Trophy, one of the best teams in the NHL this season throughout the course of the regular season. So, what can we expect from this matchup between these two teams? How do these two teams measure up in terms of strengths, weaknesses, key players, and components? And can the Blues pull off an upset to extend their season and make it into round two of the playoffs? We'll talk about all that and more today on Note News. This Blues team is in the playoffs, baby. They are headed to the playoffs bound. If we don't seem as excited as you think maybe we should be, that's because we're exhausted. And the reason why is we stayed up late to watch the game and then did a post-game reaction recap episode, like emergency episode last night. So if you want to see our more raw excitement right after the fact, go check that out. But Alec, are you still riding the high, the excitement? I think I know the answer to this question, but have you come down off of last night's excitement yet?
No. I mean, put this thing on first. I went to bed. I almost went to bed in this, and then put it on first thing in the morning.
Yes, sir.
It is so good to be back in the NHL playoffs and back to being like a respected and truly feared team in the Western Conference and in the National Hockey League. So, no, I am absolutely, I am absolutely riding the high of this, of this playoff berth, and bring on whoever. I know it's the Jets, but I don't care. I think Blues versus the world right now. I'm taking Blues by a million, baby.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we are Note News. We're a St. Louis Blues podcast, and we go live twice a week. And on those special occasions when the Blues clinch a playoff spot, we go live a little bit more than twice a week. I think this is our third of the week already. So if you enjoy Blues content and you want to follow along with us as we start to preview and then react to the playoffs and this playoff run for the Blues, then the best way to do that is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, follow and rate wherever you listen. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And then you can follow us on social media at Note News Pod on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We post a lot of great stuff over there. Alec has been posting a lot of great like shorter form videos, so go check those out. Key points from our episodes, memes, all that good stuff. So check us out on all those platforms as we start to talk about some playoff matchups and react to playoff series as they come. And so this is our first playoff preview episode here on Note News. And so today we're talking round one against the Winnipeg Jets. But before we get started, any other reactions to last night's game? Just for those who may have missed our episode last night. I mean, this was an insane game. I think we talked about like the key story here was just when their back was against the wall, just coming out like crazy strong, and kind of flattening the Utah Hockey Club. But like in a game where it's kind of potentially do or die, they did quite a bit. So yeah, any other thoughts on last night's game?
I mean, it was a really fun watch. It was absolutely like you said, in a must-win game. Boy, did they! I think it was really just, I don't know, really reassuring to see them be able to put on a performance like that in crunch time when it matters, because they're going to have their backs against the walls at least once and hopefully more than once in this run here. So, that gives them a chance to prove their mettle. And I think they have so far, but they've shown that they can do it. Obviously, the Utah Hockey Club is very different than the Winnipeg Jets. Won the President's Trophy. President's Cup. Are they interchangeable? I use them interchangeably. I don't know.
I think it's a trophy.
But and the other obviously missed the playoffs. But that being said, I still think the way that they came out and just dominated the first period, when we had been talking about that they sort of like to play this like long waiting game, was really, really just all around like kind of what you needed to see in the last game of the season. And put up another touchdown.
Yeah.
How many times have they done that this season?
It's been quite a few. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened quite a bit against Anaheim and Chicago, and yeah, they really have come out, with their hair on fire, guns a-blazing, whatever you want to say, quite a few times. Yeah, scoring 4 in the first period last night. That is exactly how you want them to kick off a high pressure game, and I mean, got to be the highest pressure game of any that they have played this year, and so the way that they showed up for that one, you couldn't ask for a better performance there. And that comes at a great time, right? They were coming off of a 3-game losing streak after their 12-game win streak, so struggling a little bit for a few games there, but there was no sign of that last night. I'll say that. You couldn't tell. It looked like the same team that we saw over those 12 games that they won in a row, and so getting back to sort of that performance and that confidence, it came at the exact right time, right? You want to end the season on a high note. Teams that stumble into the playoffs all the way, like tend to struggle a little bit at times, I feel like. And so going into the playoffs, what was the final number? It was like 19-4-3 or something like that.
Since 4 Nations, yeah.
Since 4 Nations, yeah. Like ending the season like that is fantastic, and then ending it on the final game before you go on to face the Jets the way they did last night. Couldn't ask for much of a better way to do it, right? So fantastic game. If you want some like more in-depth conversation and analysis and discussion of that game, check out our previous episode from last night where we really got into that. So that one was a lot of fun. That was just like a really chaotic but celebratory episode, and go check it out. It was fun. But we're here today to preview round 1. So that's enough. That's enough talk of stuff that's already happened. Let's talk about what's to come. Round 1 of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. The Blues, as the second wild card in the West, will face the Winnipeg Jets, who are the best in the West and the best in the league, winning the President's Trophy, as we've mentioned a couple of times already. So we've got a few things we can talk about, right? We've got strengths and weaknesses, sort of breaking down overall style of play and how they match up together. These two teams do, key players. But Alec, where do you want to start with this conversation and this preview of the series against the Jets?
I think, man, it's hard to get just off being in the playoffs after the season. It's just so awesome.
It's already a success.
I mean, and for that, I guess it's hard not to want to start at the high of the discussion in that, like, this is a team that the Blues can play with. The Jets do kind of, in the regular season, own the Blues a little bit. This season, and even going back a couple seasons, they've been a really tough draw. But I think the whole discussion around playoffs was in a 7-game set out of the 2 most likely outcomes in Vegas and Winnipeg. You absolutely wanted to draw the playoff Jets out of those 2. And, I think there's good reason for that we sort of touched on at the end of the last episode. The way that they overuse Hellebuck, the way that they're not really built for like playoff hockey. Like they're built to really outlast and play well in a 60-minute game. But over, a series where you need a little bit more competitive fire, and when you need like that goal to put you up or to ice the game, or momentum is so key. The Jets are more of a regular season team built for 82 rather than built for 7. They don't necessarily have those players that can swing momentum in an instant like a Holloway can, which, that is just such a crappy loss. But and unfortunately, no news yet either on Holloway. But I don't know. I don't want to be too doom and gloom, but it kind of feels like no news is bad news for him. I'd be surprised if he makes it to the first round at all.
Yeah, I would totally be surprised too. Yeah.
But yeah, last thing I'll say is just I think that the Jets do match up really favorably for the Blues. I said that backwards, so I think the Blues match up really well into the Jets. Is that this is a team that we can absolutely play with and beat. I've sort of broke it down on episodes previous, and I'll go into it in a second here, but I don't want to take up all the time. But I think of the matchups, definitely you like it a lot. The Central Division bracket is a lot more annoying, but this is who you're going to have to beat, in this window. Is right now, I don't really think it's a question that the Central is the best division in hockey and is like pretty resolutely set up to be the future best division in hockey as well. Because the bottom feeder teams right now are Nashville, who is going to be bad for a while, and Bedard, who, you know what, Freudian slip, but that makes sense. On top
Chicago,
of that, you got
essentially is Bedard.
Yeah, is Bedard, but has a top, presumably a high draft pick this year. Right. Lottery hasn't run yet, and then Utah on the up, Minnesota. We'll see where they go. But obviously, Colorado, Dallas, Winnipeg are some of the class of the NHL right now. So, in a really hard Central Division, it's going to be a really hard Central Division. It's annoying that we got the really hard Central Division, but it's the division that we play in, so we're going to have to get used to it. So I'm just excited. I'm just excited to be watching hockey late into April and May.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah,
I think how the schedule
exciting.
Works out. Yeah,
exciting that the season will continue for the Blues. But yeah, Central Division bracket is pretty tough. But I mean, the good thing is that Dallas didn't pass Winnipeg for first, and so Dallas and Colorado, one of them are going to get eliminated first round, and so you've only got to beat one of those two. I'd be a lot more scared to face either of those than the Jets in the playoffs. And I've been guilty of underestimating the Jets in the past. But not in the playoffs. Not in the playoffs. I'll say that. Like we've mentioned, we don't really need to get into it a whole lot. We've mentioned it several times, but they just sort of have this chronic issue of failing to get it done in any sort of meaningful, extended way in the playoffs. And so it's kind of like, until we see that, what more can we expect? And so I think this is a more favorable matchup and a more favorable outcome. And I think like the benefit of being on this side of the bracket is, and I may have mentioned this on a prior episode, but like, I think the benefit is Winnipeg is a matchup. So in a time of the season where momentum is so important, I think Winnipeg is the matchup where you're more likely to get to sort of establish that momentum than the Vegas matchup, right? And so like I think that momentum can do wonders for you against the Avs or the Stars, whereas playing against Vegas, you might not get the chance to build up that momentum and might not even get a chance to play a weaker Oilers Kings second round opponent. And so I think there's pros and cons to each for sure. But getting into, I mean, one interesting thing. Why don't we just start with key players, and then sort of, I guess, rise above that to a more team perspective. And I want to start this off with the Blues, and I want to start this off with how they played against the Jets this season. So obviously, like the record didn't really go our way against the Jets this year. They won 3 of 4 matchups, all pretty close games. Like there wasn't a game in this series throughout the regular season that was like, crazy one way or the other. I mean, the most tilted outcome was in favor of the Blues, 4-1 win. But the interesting thing that I've got my eye on is in these games, it tends to be the Blues' top players who show up. Robert Thomas has a point in all 4 of these games, right? So he assisted both Brandon Saad goals in the first matchup. Jordan Kyrou also had an assist in that one. In the second matchup, Jordan Kyrou scored. Robert Thomas assisted the second goal from Dylan Holloway, and then scored a goal later on. Jordan Kyrou scored a second goal. Robert Thomas scored a goal. So 3-point night for no, sorry, 2-point night for each of them in that one. The third matchup, Robert Thomas scored 2 goals and assisted the third. And then in the last matchup, we saw Robert Thomas assist Pavel Buchnevich's goal, who also has gotten some points in these games. And so it's like, it seems like our top players, have had success in this, with against this opponent throughout the regular season series. So, I mean, is there anything you want to speak to from a Blues fan perspective as to like what you've seen from specifically, I mean, Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, we can lump in Pavel Buchnevich into that conversation as well. And even, I mean, we could even bring in Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg into that if you wanted to, but really starting with Thomas and Kyrou, like what did you see from these two guys who are the backbone of this team? What did you see from them in the regular season that, is a sign for optimism?
I mean, Thomas and Kyrou, I think Kyrou especially really do like playing against Central Division opponents. They're really, really good, have really good numbers on the year playing against teams in the Central. I will say a somewhat notable exception to that, unfortunately, is the Winnipeg Jets for at least Jordan Kyrou. But definitely, like those are the guys to watch, and you really saw them heat up down the stretch too. So let's see, are these numbers updated? I believe so. Yeah, so Kyrou ended the season with 70 points, 36 goals. So definitely the top goal scoring threat, especially with Holloway out. And Thomas is someone who you would, in a big moment, that's like what I was talking about earlier, talking about players who can step up and change the calculus of a game. Robert Thomas is absolutely one of those. He can, in a serious game, he can make a critical play, put the team on his back, as it were, when needed, for sure. And we've seen him do it in games against the Winnipeg Jets, if I will. So I definitely think you're right that you kind of have to start at the top here for the Blues. I think like Cam Fowler, Colton Parayko, the blue line presence have been really good, but honestly, I don't really know that they're going to factor in too much into this series. Just the way I picture this going is it's going to have to be the game script where we win are going to have to be fast-paced, fast-break offenses that can, do some damage late in games. And I just don't know that, I don't know that the defensemen, the notably slow defensemen are going to factor into that. I really think this is going to have to be driven by the forwards, and they're going to have to hunker down and play defense too. So a guy like Zach Bolduc is certainly going to have a big ask in this series. But yeah, I think play from the forwards and play from the top lines, because I think Winnipeg is a pretty top heavy-ish team. They like to do a lot of similar things with their lines, but definitely like Connor, Scheifele, Ehlers are all like serious scoring threats. But definitely like their lower lines, you've got like Brandon Tanev, Adam Lowry, guys that you can really go after and target for sure. Like versus on the top line, like Nemestikov, Iafallo are all such great defenders that it's going to be really hard to play against that. So yeah, I think it's going to have to be essentially a battle of top lines here, but I do think the Blues depth could also rise up and help this team win. I just think it's really going to have to come from the forward core above everything else.
Yeah, on the offensively, absolutely. I agree with you there. And Colton Parayko, Cam Fowler, like some of our top offensive defensemen didn't really factor in against Winnipeg. Like it seems like, as you sort of mentioned there, the style of play of Winnipeg, but also the style of play required of the Blues to compete against them. You're right. It doesn't really factor in defensemen, especially, slower moving defensemen, quite as much. But as we'll get into a little bit, these players are still going to be hugely important based on the offensive play style of the Jets. Like Colton Parayko and Cam Fowler, they're going to get the toughest minutes probably of anyone in this series. And so on the defensive side, Colton Parayko, Cam Fowler, they're going to be really important.
I do think probably I'd expect Montgomery to lean on Thomas a lot too. He tends to do so in big games,
sure.
and Thomas has been stepping up defensively as of late. So I do expect to see that again.
Absolutely, and he also really likes to set the pace of the game and sort of like establish in the opponent's mind, here's what Blues hockey is right now. He really likes to set that tone with the fourth line, which has been sort of more of like a stalwart defensive line.
True.
Like really tough, gritty line. They started the game last night. Like he really likes when they set the tone and set the pace of play, especially early on. And so like I think they could get some tough minutes as well. But do you have anything that you want to sort of touch on with this fourth line? We went from the top guys. What about these sort of bottom six guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you actually really just sparked something in my head that absolutely. I don't think I do think that this is a that the fourth line, the WTF line, is absolutely going to be a big reason and potentially like way that the Blues can win and maybe even dominate some of these games. The Jets are not a very physical team. They are 19th in the league in hits thrown. The Blues are 6th. And obviously that short Australian number 26 is doing a lot of the heavy lifting there. But I seriously think that Thomas being a game controller on offense can be enough on his line. I think you're going to have to kind of see Shen and Kyrou cook a little bit if they're on the same line together with no Holloway. Again, I really think if Holloway was in this matchup, like I could see a sweep incoming. Like I think he's that dominant, especially against a team like the Jets. Unfortunately, I think I've lamented enough on that point. Bolduc and Sundqvist can definitely do their thing, but I do think you absolutely have made a really, really key point here that the fourth line's physicality and energy is going to be really hard to match for the Winnipeg Jets, especially playing honestly on any of their lines. Like if you honestly, I really think Faxa, Torpo, Walker match up really well against Connor, Scheifele, Iafallo. That isn't necessarily a super fast, skilled line. Connor definitely has some speed for sure, and Scheifele has some skill. I mean, they're all very, very talented hockey players. But I really do like the matchup there, along with Torpo's excellent size. And another way that I really think that the Blues can dictate pace of play, going back to the depth of the forwards, I think all that, I'm trying not to repeat myself too much here, but I think the forwards are just going to be so essential in this matchup. The Jets are not necessarily a super strong face-off team either. They are, the Blues are 10th in the league, ended up at 10th at 51.6. The Jets ended up at 21st at 49.1, which, 59-41 doesn't really sound all that different, but when you look at who's actually taking them, you've got on the Blues side, Shannon and Thomas actually set career bests this season in face-off winning percentage. Excuse me, I don't know what's going on today. I guess it's just the exhaustion. Set career best in face-off winning percentage versus their 1C top line forward Mark Scheifele set. His this season was 49.7. So under a 50% face-off win is not a dominant mark by any means. And he's like their best option. So I think winning face-offs, controlling play, and dictating the pace of play with that, we really I need like a name or something for this style of hockey. But the ankle biters or the death by 1,000 punches or whatever, the WTF style of play that they're going to be bringing is absolutely going to have a chance to out physical, outpace, and Um, yeah, I'm losing it here, but I think that's exactly where you can win this matchup is in those forward lines and going line by line and shift by shift, and that's exactly what Jim Montgomery is getting the guys to do, and that's exactly what I'm going to be watching for.
Yeah, and you've made the point before of, you win, or was it you, or was it someone smarter than you? Just just the
Wow.
idea of like the way you win games is you win shifts, right? Is this something that you've brought up before?
Oh yeah, I think in fact, not only did I say it, I think it really is a great point that you should elaborate more on.
Just the notion of in order to win games, you need to win moments, right? And you need to win shifts. And it's more granular uh, than just 60 minutes, right? It's winning shifts, winning matchups. You spoke it much more eloquently than me. So sorry I was mean
You're
to
right
you,
about
but
that.
why don't you touch on that a little more? Because like I think that really builds on what you were saying
Mm-hmm.
at the end there
Yeah.
about the fourth line.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the way that the Blues could win the games and win this series, the games of this series is going to be not necessarily dominating on paper, not necessarily, winning. Even I would argue like winning in the big moments, although they are going to have to do that as well, and actually expect them to do so. But it's going to be winning at every like little moment of play. And really, I think this is just a big difference between Jim Montgomery hockey, between like Blues hockey, like we're seeing, and the Blues hockey that we were used to, where, they would play down to bad competition. They would come out flat. They would just sometimes mail it in certain games, it looked like. Under Montgomery, we've seen really that fight, that drive, that desire to play for each other. And I really think that that's part of this identity, this team identity of trying to win every shift, trying to win every moment. A really big thing emphasized in Montgomery's style of hockey is puck battles and puck battles down behind the net, below the
Hmm.
zone, like
Hmm.
under the slot and everything, up against the boards too. Board play is crucial for this style of hockey. And that's something that the Blues absolutely can do against a team like Winnipeg. They do have size, which hurts for that in that regard, but the Blues have speed and they also have grit that Winnipeg may or may not have,
Hmm.
especially if. Um, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but I'm reading Matt in the chat, other Matt in the chat saying Ehlers is out. That actually, if that's the case, that's a huge loss. That is a really, really talented forward who can play center and wing. So, anyways, yeah, I think the way that they're going to be able to attack this Jets team is by going out and dictating pace of play in the neutral zone, is by winning puck battles in the offensive zone down behind the net, is going to be by throwing hits in the defensive zone and blocking shots like they have been. The Jets are very much an LA Kings style. Like, did you see that one goal? I don't even remember who it was, but the highlight of the LA Kings goal this year, which was maybe the highlight of the year. Someone's like
Quentin
coming screaming
Byfield.
down the slot. Not the Byfield one hand. Like someone's
Oh,
coming screaming down the slot, drops it for another player who's on the other side, and then you get I don't know, whatever. Anyways, the Winnipeg Jets are very much a methodical, like
yeah,
analytical style of offense. They
yeah,
try
yeah,
and
yeah.
create the perfect pass, the perfect look, and just a beautiful goal that's a chef's kiss each time it works. And that is something that the Blues have shown that they are able to stop. That
Hmm.
type of defense of offense can be countered by Blues defense, which is disrupting passing lanes, which is blocking shots, that's
Yeah.
exactly how that offense works, is by creating passing lanes and opening high danger shots. The Blues under Montgomery were fourth in the NHL in high danger chances against. That's exactly how the Jets like to attack, and I really, really like their ability to play with this Jets team and like a wise man once said, win in the margins and win those small battles to win the hockey game.
Are you the wise man that you're quoting right here? You quoting yourself?
What? No.
Let's close out our discussion of the Blues forward group. Good question from Cody in the chat. Thoughts on the second line being Bolduc, Shin, Kyrou? Do we think, obviously Montgomery has had sort of a difficult time filling the void of Holloway on the second line. He's tried a few different things. He's tried both young guys of Neighbors and Snuggerud on Shin's wings and things like that. Last night we saw Snuggerud on Shin's wing, and then Kyrou on the other side. Neighbors elevated to the top line, and Bolduc remained on the third line. Like, what's your take here, sort of mixing and matching? Because honestly, I don't hate the idea of elevating Bolduc. I just feel like he's found some pretty solid success, and I feel also as though I feel like Snuggerud is really hitting a rhythm right now, playing with Braden Shen, and it's like kind of in a groove. And obviously got his first goal last night. Had another great chance before that. He had an assist, and has in his short, his short tenure with the Blues is already having a pretty significant offensive impact. And so, personally, I wouldn't want to mess with Snuggerud in that moment where he's like starting to maybe show flashes of being able to help us account for the loss of Holloway. But then plus on the other, like on Bolduc's side, he has been in a rhythm on that third line with Joseph and Sonny all year. And so do you mess with that? Do you elevate Bolduc, who's been playing well really lately, or do you kind of leave it be, at least to start with? Obviously adjustments can be made, but I'm thinking I'd leave it be for the time being.
I think I would probably go the other way. I'm trying to find the tweet. I thought I liked it, but I can't seem to pull it up right now. But I don't know. I mean, looking at the way that the goals that Snuggerud's been involved in, like it's playing with Thomas and Buchnevich. So honestly, you're right. Snuggerud has absolutely been unreal as of late and has been on an absolute heater. For that reason, I would actually elevate Snuggerud to the first line. I would personally try Snug with Buch and Thomas, or Thomas with Buch and Snug on his wings. And then on your second line, then you could do Shen and Kyrou, obviously, and then you have a decision between Neighbors, Bolduc, Joseph. So you're probably going to keep Sundqvist and Joseph, and then do you want Neighbors? I don't know. Neighbors just doesn't really fit anywhere on this team right now. It's tough. I mean, yeah, that's a good question. And honestly, I wouldn't hate either permutation of having Bolduc second line, Neighbors third, or Bolduc third line, Neighbors second. So sorry to give kind of a non-answered, but I definitely do like the idea of Bolduc playing on the second line.
Yeah, and obviously we kind of need Bolduc and Snuggerud to be big parts of the offense here. And so, I mean, Bolduc's pretty hot, right? I think 5 goals and 2 assists in the last 10 games. So he's someone who
power play weapon.
Yeah, for sure. Go check out Alex meme that he made about that. It's pretty funny. Yeah, so I think you're looking for these young forwards to really step up here, and be a big factor. And we saw that in one specific cup run a few years ago. Some young players stepping up, and so I think you're looking for exactly the same thing. And I think a big key to this team's success all year has been a blend of some pretty balanced production from both the veterans and the young guys. And so you really need them to keep it up, and I don't doubt that they will. So yeah, that'll be huge. Why don't we pivot to talk about the Jets forward core a little more specifically? Obviously Kyle Connor is like the name to bring up here. 41 goals and 55 assists for 96 points so far this year. Mark Scheifele also having a great year, 38 goals, 48 assists for 86 points. Ehlers is sort of the next guy down, but as was mentioned, he's currently out. So, what do you see from this forward core on the Jets? And you sort of talked about their play style already, but like, who are the real weapons, the real threats that you see coming out of Winnipeg for this series?
Definitely the big name, I think, is Kyle Connor. It just always seems to be there against the Blues. Also, I will say Scheifele too. I think usually can show up in big games. Now, I don't think it's necessarily like he's a, Binnington. I mean, no one's a Binnington level performer, but it's not necessarily like biggest threat on the ice type show up in big games. But I do think Scheifele is definitely like I expect him to register some points. That top line is going to do damage. Like
for sure.
Like it or not, they won the President's Cup for a reason, and that top line is dangerous. The real reason they won the President's Cup is obviously that man in net, but also I think Josh Morrissey is someone I'm really, really kind of terrified of. He is just automatic on the power play. You mentioned that actually I can't remember if you mentioned or not, but they have the first ranked power play in the league, and it feels like every second or third power play goal is Josh Morrissey registers a point on it. So he's a big threat, and someone I would be looking to shut down, a la what happened with Cale Makar. But even then, I don't know, with that many pieces, it is a little bit tough. But definitely in terms of scoring, they are a top-heavy team, because the way that the Jets won games and won the Presidents, they allowed the least goals allowed in the league. So they were the best team at preventing goals in the NHL, and that's because they are defensively great with the best goalie in the world. So I'm not necessarily expecting. In fact, well, okay, every playoff team has the capability to put up like 6 goals in a game, but I would expect the Blues to score. Okay, I can't really word this properly now that I'm thinking about it, because then it would just mean that we win. But yeah, the way that the Blues win is by offense and effort on defense. The way that the Jets win is defense, and more defense. So if you can crack through that iron wall, that's how you attack this team. And honestly, like, I like our chances too. I've mentioned it before that the Blues are really good against playing teams that play really slow. And the Jets are a really slow hockey team that, like, yeah, they really don't like pressure. They pressure the puck. Like, their back checking is really good, as I mentioned, just defensively excellent. But yeah, they're a really slow hockey team that I think the Blues offensive style matches up really favorably into, and I really like it for that reason as well. So
yeah, for sure. And in a minute here, we'll pivot to talk about like some bigger picture team performance things, but you sort of started to touch on the decor here. Obviously, Josh Morrissey is the name. Another interesting thing is this will be like battle of the Shens. Luke Shen traded to the Jets.
He's a Jet?
Yeah, he got traded mid-season. He's playing, I think, on their third pair right now. So yeah, the Shen brothers will get to play against each other. That'll be really fun. I mean, really, like, outside of Morrissey, I mean, you've got Pionk and Dylan DeMello or a couple other names, but like, obviously defensively they're good, and you sort of broke that down already. But anything else you want to touch on Winnipeg's like decor before we talk a little bit about which Blues players we might see on the blue line?
They're kind of just all defensive guys.
Yeah, for sure.
So definitely, like, battles in front of the net are going to be crucial to help win, and are going to be really hard to win. So it's going to be a tough ask, especially for some smaller forwards like a Walker, or even like, or no, Kyrou 6'2". Who else am I thinking of? I guess Neighbors. Yeah, honestly, like, honestly, if Neighbors goes pointless this series, I would not be that surprised. I just think it's kind of nightmare Jake Neighbors matchup in just about every way. But Yeah, I would say you're going to need to, I don't know, keep chances up and keep throwing stuff because it's going to take a lot to break through for sure.
Sure. Yeah. And then we sort of started to talk about the blue line for the Blues a little bit earlier on, but like we don't expect the blue line to be a big factor on the offensive end for the Blues, but really they're gonna need to lock it down defensively. And so I think you keep your top pair of Fowler, Parayko intact. But beyond that, do you think it's kind of you wouldn't be surprised? Like I'm not sure if I would be surprised if he shuffled it up, but at the same time, I feel like Monty is the kind of guy who's going to stick with what got us here or what got the Blues to where they are. And so, like that part of me thinks maybe like Broberg Falk will stay intact, and then we might see Suter Tucker or Suter Letty. So, what do you like? What do you think we'll see beyond the first pair? Because I think that is pretty set for the Blues and their decor.
I get the sneaking suspicion we're going to see a lot of Nick Leddy this series, and I kind of don't like that. Honestly, like I think Tucker is the fourth best defenseman on the roster right now. I think he's been playing awesome since the team started to go. Has been super underrated. Just really, especially like without the puck, just in terms of his positioning and his awareness as a defenseman, he's just always in the right place and doesn't necessarily make plays, but his presence like dissuades certain plays from happening. I would really like it if they gave Tucker a little bit of a run here. I just don't know that we're going to see that because we didn't really get any inclination that that was going to happen based on the lines that were coming out. And we saw a good bit more of Nick Leddy. Justin Falk, I mean, Falk is bad defensively, but again, the Jets are just not really an offensively scary team, I feel like. That I actually do kind of like Falk in this role in this matchup because I think you're going to have to, a way I could see a goal going in would be like battling down low behind the net, getting a slot or a pass up the boards to someone who can then stretch it to Falk, who can take a clapper. And honestly, like there isn't really anyone outside of like Parayko too who can take a clapper like that. But Parayko's isn't really a one-timer guy. He's more of a like settle the puck, take a second and shoot. And those are the ones that Hellebuck has no trouble with at all. So again, Parayko, I think, is someone who I think can just be shut down offensively, but defensively, like he's going to be fine. But I think Falk gives something to this blue line. Like I know he is really bad defensively, and I agree he's really bad defensively, but I think he gives something to this blue line that you don't really have outside of maybe Tyler Tucker, but they won't play Tyler Tucker. And yeah, but between Falk and Leddy, I would hope to see one of them as the seventh guy. I just don't think that's going to be the case. Suter's been fine also, but yeah, I am a little bit. I don't know. I do think the defense core in general for the Blues is not necessarily going to be the strength of this playoff series.
Yeah, I think that checks out. Let's see. So why don't we talk about like the big question here when it comes to how these two teams match up position for position, and then we'll pivot to talk about some bigger picture team stuff, as I said. But like, let's talk goalie, right? You've got Connor Hellebuck, who by a lot of people's accounts is the best goalie in the world. You've got he's gonna win the Vezina this year. He won it last year. He even has a case for Hart.
He'll probably get votes. Yeah,
I mean, he'll definitely get votes. I think he should win it. But anyways, I digress. We can have that discussion another time. But on the other end, right, you've got Jordan Bennington, who is like a career playoff performer kind of guy. the kind of guy who shows up when the lights are bright. We talked a lot about this around Four Nations. So, um, I mean, what are you looking for when it comes to like the goalie matchup? Where do you want to start this discussion? Because we've mentioned Connor Hellebuck um, has struggled recently in the playoffs, and I don't think it's his fault as much as it is overuse. And he
Totally.
continues to be a really heavily used goalie. Like I think they're even playing him like in the final game here or something. I can't remember where I saw that, but like they're playing him when they don't have to. It's like why not let the man get some rest? So I think that is as big a vulnerability as one of the best goalies in the world right now can have. Um, you're not going to find a lot of vulnerabilities with a guy like Hellebuck, but I think that's a big one is overuse and just sort of fatigue. But Bennington has done decently well down the stretch, and the net is definitely his to begin with, and would be surprised if he gave it up really at all in this first round. And so, yeah, like, what do you think when it comes to how these two goalies match up?
I mean, yeah, Hellebuck, absolutely. I think overuse is definitely something that has to be taken into account here because he played great in the Four Nations. He really, especially in the marquee game that everyone watched, that final, Hellebuck had a great game. He just got beat by the playoff goalie. But anyways, I really do think that Hellebuck is fallible, though, especially in the playoffs. You talk about overuse. It definitely shows. I mean, part of the reason that I am against your Connor Hellebuck for Hart agenda is because if you looked at his statistics 2 months ago or so, I probably would have agreed with you because he was leagues and bounds ahead of everybody else. He had like a 930 or a high 920 save percentage when the next closest guy was like a 918 or something. Now Vasilevsky and I can't remember off the top of my head who else, but there is competition catching up to him. And honestly, Vasilevsky might be playing better right now. But I really think that he's already sort of showing the signs of wear and tear that is par for the course around this time of year. Also, the Jets' defensive efforts isn't so much like getting sticks in lanes and blocking shots. It's putting pressure on the other team, and I think that the Blues have enough skill to outmatch that. They're not necessarily the most skilled teams, but they, I think, can hang with the forward core, and sort of beat their defensive style. So let's see. I got a question in the chat here, which I'm actually going to look up really quick. So since the Four Nations break, Connor Hellebuck. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. When was Four Nations? February 14th.
It ended on February 21st or 22nd is like when they came back. So he's got a 916 or sorry 921 save percentage since then.
Mm-hmm. Still very good.
Yeah, still very good. Absolutely. Yeah, so that's his number. Let's see. Since then, 1.92 goals allowed on average. I think I'm seeing 11.31 goals saved above expected. So I mean, he's been solid since Four Nations at all strengths. I will say though, and this is sort of getting more into the territory of overall like team strengths and weaknesses, and we can definitely sort of go ahead and pivot to that. Whereas the Jets' power play is the best in the league, their penalty kill is a little more middling, sort of towards middle of the league. And I think down the stretch here, that has been on display, especially for Connor Hellebuck, whose numbers actually don't look great on the penalty kill since Four Nations. Like since Four Nations, when you look at penalty kill, Jordan Binnington actually looks a lot better than Connor Hellebuck. So on the penalty kill since Four Nations, Connor Hellebuck only has an 800 save percentage, and he's got negative 1.96 goals saved above expected. So, that has been a weakness when it comes to his individual performance, but also like the Jets' performance here down, in the last 2 months. So, like, what's your take on? I mean, do you have anything else to add to sort of the goalie discussion, and then we can sort of pivot to talking about Jets penalty kill and power play type stuff?
Just that, as we sort of have talked about, that Binnington has played with Hellebuck before. We can say it as many times as we want. Beat the Jets in 2019, obviously. Binnington in the Four Nations, obviously very different teams, but in a goalie duel in a big game, he showed up, and he always has showed up. I've always said it, playoff Binnington is all you need to have a chance to beat anybody. And we've seen it, and honestly, like, Binnington is first name on my list of players I'm looking at. We were talking about skaters earlier, but in terms of who I am watching closest in this series, it is Jordan Binnington. Someone asked, will we see Hofer? Maybe one game, but honestly, like if the series goes 7, I wouldn't be shocked if he plays in all 7, because he's just that important to the Blues and to the Blues in the playoffs and to everything that this team does and wants to do. So I am with Binner all the way, and I think that the team will be too. And Hellebuck is a really good card to have for the Jets, but I think we have at least something to match it, if not surpass it.
Yeah. I think it is, it's kind of like it is a really interesting goalie matchup. It's like, and we had this discussion around Four Nations is which goalie would you rather have? The guy who is the centerpiece of getting you to the playoffs, or the guy who can, unlock something in the playoffs and extend the season for you? And I think we kind of came to the consensus that you'd rather have a guy like Jordan Binnington who shows up in the big moments, because you can rely on other sort of larger team contributions to get you to that point. But a goalie can really steal you a short series. And so it is a really, really intriguing goalie matchup here. And sort of this is sort of continuing the team strengths and weaknesses discussion around the goalies. I want to point out this sort of disparity between special teams units. It's like one of the Jets' biggest strengths is also one of the Blues' biggest weaknesses, and I think that is something concerning and something that I'm sure the Blues have their eye on, and Jim Montgomery has his eye on. The Jets have the best power play in the league. It is, 29% or thereabouts. Let's see. Yeah, 29.4%. Meanwhile, sorry.
Oh, I was just talking about, I got too many tabs.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Blues penalty kill is a weakness for the team, right? They have the 74.3 penalty kill percentage. So that isn't a very favorable matchup for the Blues. But whereas Connor Hellebuck looks not so great when the Jets are killing off a penalty, Binnington looks pretty good. Since Four Nations, he's got a 908 save percentage, 4.16 goals saved above expected, a high danger save percentage of 889. So, he has kind of locked it down on the penalty kill. And they're to be fair and to their credit, their penalty kill has looked better in the past 20 games or so. It has looked better than it did for the full season. But Binnington has been a big part of that, and so I think that is something that should be encouraging, even though the penalty kill tends to be a weakness for this team. So that I just think that's something key to pay attention to here. um, Speaking more broadly, more generally about overall team strengths, weaknesses, play style. Anything else on special teams, or do you want to sort of take it a different direction? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I really liked your shout earlier of Zach Bolduc, and definitely will be a player to watch this match. He does play really strong in front of the net. If he can out physical, out tough some of those big defensemen that the Jets have, that could totally be a way that this team can come back in games. And like you said, on the power play or on the penalty kill for the Jets, gosh, this is just throwing my head in circles. They have been hard. It hasn't quite been as effective, and I could definitely see Bolduc having a big series in that regard, as someone who can be the difference on the power play, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that's another player to watch. Again, I just really think it's going to be the forwards. I just really think it's going to come down to the Blues forwards versus the Jets team defense, who can prevail. And I really like the options of speed and skill that we have with Thomas, with Kyrou. If Booch can have a big series, that'd be awesome. He's been absolutely on fire recently, but I kind of see this as a negative matchup for Buchnevich as well. So, that's something to monitor. But if he can have a big series, then that would be awesome. But, Bolduc and maybe Neighbors can make an impact. Even like Joseph is kind of got some wheels. Or like, honestly, Nathan Walker is scoring a goal in this series. Book it. I'm making the claim right now. But
Right.
I am absolutely, I think it's going to come down to the forwards, the speed, and the physicality. And I think the Blues have the edge in all three of those categories.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's well put. One thing that I wanted to sort of bring up is like the overall offensive play. I guess the overall play style of this Jets team. Because I do have a question here for you. Like, how can the Blues combat this? And so, what we've seen from the Jets at 5-on-5 throughout the regular season, um, is a team that sort of dominates the game when it comes to like high danger chances and high danger goals and things like that. It seems like a team that um, you know is really good at scoring those high danger goals, but also really good at limiting them. And so they sort of dominate the game when it comes to getting into those quality areas, those high danger areas. Um, and so, how do you think the Blues can sort of combat that? Because on the point of strengths, like that is a big one for the Jets. And so, what are you looking for defensively? Right, this has been a big reason for the Blues' sustained success in the last month, 2 months of the season is team defense. And so, do you see this team defense sort of hanging with that offensive play style of the Jets, and how so?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And I think that this is another way that the Blues can make a difference in these games. You mentioned that the Jets are so good at high danger scoring chances. Under Montgomery, like since November 25th, his first game, the Blues are third in high danger chances against, like allowing. Like that's our defense is matching up to counter their offense perfectly. Like this is why we were 2-0-1 against the Kings and kind of maybe should have been 3-0-0 is they're exactly this type of offense. We can dominate a team like that. A slow, methodical passing team has no chance against this, like, I really need a name for it. Like berserker effort and energy, offense and defense.
Disruptive.
Disruptive, physical, just like energy that they bring. Like this is the type of team that the Blues can absolutely beat. And it sucks that, they kind of have owned us in the regular season this year. But like you said, all of those games were close. A lucky bounce or two, maybe those go our way. It's just that usually lucky bounces are negated by that guy in goal. But as we've broken down, he's also fallible, especially this time of year. So I really, really like our odds to make some noise here. And I mean, are we ready to get into like predictions and everything? Because I think I think we're kind of getting there here, and just
Yeah, sure.
I really, really like the way that this Blues team matches up into the Jets for all the reasons we've broken down, for how the strengths match up, how the weaknesses. Definitely, like there are absolutely ways both teams can win here, but for being the wild card 2 underdog here, I mean, is this series like, are the Jets even like moderate favorites, do you think? I'm curious. I'm gonna look up some betting odds while you
I think the betting
bring us
odds
to our
are
next one.
definitely in Winnipeg's favor here.
I'm sure they're in their favor, but like how much so is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, really, I don't think there's any team that would want to face the Blues right now. And so
Exactly.
I definitely agree. Like the Blues are definitely the type of team right now that can go in there and make some noise and really can, like, I would say shock some people, surprise some people, but I feel like a lot of people are expecting the Blues to do it. Like it's statistically they're the underdog, and by the odds they might be the underdog, but I feel like a lot of people kind of think that this Blues team has a real shot, and I think I definitely agree there. Um, any luck on
Okay.
finding the odds
According
here?
to thescore.com, the Jets are -200 and the Blues are +170. So that's pretty in their favor. I think that's
Yeah.
Hey, maybe a place I might go make some money.
we don't condone sports betting here on Note News, but um, yeah. So
So
do we want to? I mean, do we want to get into like
yes.
specific predictions here? So I mean, do you want to kick us off? It seems like you have maybe some thoughts here.
I mean, I feel like I've been talking all episode, but I got you. So, I mean, if you can't tell by the tone of my voice or my garb of the day or my social media presence or that thing, I'm kind of a St. Louis sports fan.
Oh,
I'm going to try and be analytical about this, but I am taking the Blues. I'm taking the Blues. Blues all the way, baby. Let's go, man. And partially, I'm taking the Blues just because, like, I don't want to cheer against them, or not cheer against. Obviously, I'm going to be cheering for them regardless of who I predict. But I don't want to predict them to lose and then cheer, and then if they end up winning, whatever. Too much roundabout talking here. But I legitimately do think that the Blues have a serious chance to steal a series. You've got
oh yeah.
it just kind of has that energy about it, and that's where I'm totally not being analytical. So I'll go into the stats after this, but it just kind of has that energy about it. You've got President's Curse, which is infamous. You know, the Rangers 2 years ago, no, last year. Whenever the Rangers won the Presidents, they made it to the conference finals, and that was like the first time that anyone had made it to the conference finals, I believe, since the Hawks won the Stanley Cup as Presidents winners. That's probably incorrect. Whatever. So President's pressure gives pressure to the Jets, who it was actually, I was shocked to see that it was their first President's Trophy win in franchise history. It feels like they've been in contention for it for like 6 years now. And I guess they just never got it done. But they're a team with a ton of pressure. I mean, they have had playoff disappointment after playoff disappointment, and they're running back basically the same core. Like, their only major changes they've made in the past couple years, this wasn't this offseason, but in the past couple years was like the Pierre-Luc Dubois sort of situation. I believe he was traded away 2 years ago. So they're sort of still like figuring out the pieces from that, picking up Iafallo, and then recently calling up Morrissey as well, who's been huge. But largely the same core, and a core that's had a lot of playoff disappointment. So all the pressure in the world is on the Jets right now. And the Blues, that we've said, are playing with house money. Even if they get dominated by the Jets, we're still going to call it a successful season. And so absolutely, like, That's a team that has pretty much nothing to lose and everything to win. That is a recipe for a terrifying team to play against. And then lastly, also just it feels like of the first round matchups this year, it feels like there's a lot of upset potential. You got Battle of Ontario. I'd say pretty much every matchup outside of Vegas has a chance to upset here. But the Blues have been the hottest team in the NHL. Let's not forget. I think we have heard a thing or two about that. Yeah, because that's totally something that people have been forgetting. But for all those reasons, it just kind of feels like an upset could be coming. And then to actually be analytical about it, as I've said, the Jets are an incredibly slow team. They register in the bottom half of the league on NHL edge speed. They register as a slow defensive team. Lowest goals allowed in the NHL this season. The best defensive and goal preventing team in the league, and a lot of that is based on Connor Hellebuyck. Connor Hellebuyck has been overused, as we've been saying. Their defensive style is really slow and methodical, just like their offense. And the Blues have shown that they can beat teams like that. Looking at the Kings and even how they played Vegas down the stretch, I would say. Looking at Colorado, one of the best defensive teams in the league this year, the Blues crushed Colorado in their last two games this season. So for all of that, plus I really do like the ability and the depth and different looks that they have to score goals, because ultimately goal prevention is crucial to get to winning games. But you can't win games if you don't score goals. And I really, really do like the Blues' ability to I know, crazy. Welcome to Note News, people. I really do like the Blues' ability to score goals in this series, because Thomas, Booch, and Snug can give you a hard shift. And then, you finally chase them off the ice and you're like, okay, that was, we beat their top line. Now we get 5 minutes of rest. And here comes WTF throwing 2 hits within the first 30 seconds of being on the ice, being scrappy, wearing down your other lines. I really think the Jim Montgomery style of play here is going to be, in my prediction that I'm making here, is going to be too much for the Jets to handle. And I'm taking the Blues. I think they could do it. And I think they could do it in 6. I think most likely the series goes 7. But honestly, I just don't really like what the Jets are cooking this year. I think of all of their rosters that they've had that we could have potentially played this year, with Ehlers being out, I absolutely think the Blues could take this and can dominate here. And last thing I'll say, keep your eyes on 21, because I think Jimmy Snuggerud is going to have a legacy defining series. He has been crushing in the expected numbers ever since he got called up. I couldn't end up finding the tweet, but it was something like it was from Rutherford. Actually, I'll be able to find it right now. But he has absolutely been all over the ice, and he will be playing with either Shen or Thomas. And I really, really like his ability to have some, the way that he plays hard, he plays fast, and he plays skillful. That's like the Jets' kryptonite. So I really like how he matches up into this game. There's a lot to go through here, but it was something to the effect of Jimmy Snuggerud has 90 minutes of ice time in the NHL, and he's got 3 points or something.
Yeah.
So
I think I remember.
I'll see if I can find it, but I
think that's a great point. And obviously the Jets are a fantastic team and have been one of the best teams all year long. And so that has come. We got a few comments in the chat about that. Just one about how that being team play. Yeah, absolutely. Great forward core, solid defensively, and then a great netminder as well. But for the reasons that you've broken down here and that we've discussed on this episode, I think I agree. I just like the way the Blues, if the Blues are going to upset a team like the Jets, I really like the way they match up with the Jets. It's almost like a puzzle piece matchup in terms of between these two teams, strengths and weaknesses, sort of being yeah, just sort of like strengths and weaknesses sort of being counterparts of each other, it feels like. And so I think for that reason, there's some good upset potential here. And I'm going to agree with you. I think Blues in 6 here. So it's obviously a best of 7 matchup. Jets have home ice advantage, and sort of the game format is 2-2-1-1-1, right? So 2 in Winnipeg, 2 in St. Louis, 1 in Winnipeg, 1 in St. Louis, 1 in Winnipeg, if it goes that long. And so kind of a crazy format, if we're being honest. But that's the format. And so I think the Blues can steal one in Winnipeg in the first 2, win both at home, and then win both after that with that solid, momentum coming from the home win. So I'm gonna agree. Blues in 6. Let's go, baby.
Let's go.
Anything else to add on sort of previewing this series or predicting, what we'll see from the first round here?
I think we covered it.
Yeah, I think so. This has been super, super exciting. What a fun team to cover down the stretch here as Blues fans. You couldn't ask for a better ending to the season than what we've gotten over the past couple months. And so it's been a ton of fun to cover for us. And we're going to continue to have a ton of fun covering it here into the playoffs. And so we're going to provide reactions to the games as they come, maybe even some other fun stuff that you should stay tuned for, which we can announce once we have details worked out and stuff like that. But stay tuned for all of our great playoff coverage. We're going to try to provide as solid and sort of up-to-date coverage as we can of the Blues in this first round of the playoffs and hopefully beyond. And so if you want to keep up with us and stay tuned and follow along with us, then the best way to do that is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, and then follow and rate wherever you listen. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you want to follow, rate, review over there. And we're also on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Note News Pod. So you should follow us over there if you want to see a ton of other great content, know when we're going live, maybe to react to each game and things like that. So follow along with us on all those platforms. We appreciate the support. And hey, playoff hockey, here we come, baby. St. Louis is back in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Super, super exciting. But we'll see you next time here on Note News. And as always, let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues in the playoffs.